Welcome in to Greenville Grit, Greenville residents in touch on 103.7 WTIB. This is the local show that keeps you connected and in touch with the issues that affect what's happening in your community. Greenville Grit is sponsored by Ribeyes, Kid Construction, and Greenville Toyota. Now, here are your hosts for Greenville Grit, Terry Williams and Michael Overton.
Good evening and welcome to Greenville Grit. I'm Terry Williams.
Michael Overton and
Dennis Mitchell.
Here we are again. A beautiful cooler day today.
Oh, it's nice.
A good day nonetheless, because it get very cold the next couple of days. But we're not here to talk about the weather. We're here to talk about politics and the weather of the politics.
We got some storms brewing, but
yeah,
they're not in the clouds.
The forecast is not too good. So we'll talk about that after our break. But of course, we've got to thank the sponsors that we have that allow the show to be on. So always thinking Greenville Toyota. If you're looking for a new Toyota or Scion vehicle or a new used car, see Craig Ghost and the Greenville Toyota team. You can visit them on the web at greenvilletoyota.com, see them in person across from Fresh Market in Greenville, or call them at 321-3000. We also have Kid Construction Group, kcgbuildgreen.com. Terry?
Green Builder.
Green Builder. If you're looking for a quality home with green construction, Bill Kidd and Kid Construction Group does a fantastic job. Beautiful homes, Parade of Homes winner. And just a good man overall. So give him a call. Look him up at kcgbuildgreen.com. All three of our favorites.
Ribeyes
Steakhouse.
Best steak in Greenville.
Yum.
That's right. Best steak in Greenville on Fire Tower Road at the corner of Fire Tower and Arlington. You can also see them in Williamston, their other location. Mm-hmm. And if you mention Greenville Grit, you get a surprise. So I'm not sure what the surprise is. It does change every now and then, but I think it could possibly still be the dessert. But go check out the salad bar, check out the steaks, and make sure you mention Greenville Grit. And lastly is the Overton Group, real estate professional serving all of Eastern North Carolina.
Thank you, Michael.
You're very welcome. We do property management, commercial real estate sales and leasing, residential brokerage, and business brokerage. We are now going to take our 2-minute commercial break. We're going to talk about the weather of the city council. So we'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to the Greenville Grit. This is Michael Overton, along with both of my co-hosts, Terry Williams and Dennis Mitchell. Terry, we kind of cracked on the break. What is the weather like on the city council?
Cloudy with a chance of meatballs.
Okay, that's cheesy. That's cheesy. Dennis, you
the
said
whole
you didn't
thing
want to
is
fill
we
in the
don't
blank.
really know. That's the problem.
Well, why do you say that? Let's go into it. Why do you say that?
Oh, because they just don't react the way that you would think they would responsibly. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the town common vote on this week's city council meeting. And we're going to talk today about the bond a little bit. I mean, we don't know exactly, obviously, because tonight's our final meeting, we hope. We'll have everything ready to present to the city council for December. But I just feel like they've done it again. They've jumped the gun before other things have been in place that we already know are coming out for December.
Okay, well, let's get specific on that.
Good idea.
What's coming out, just for the crowd to know? Dennis, why don't you take it? You're the chairman of the bond committee, and one of the things we're discussing is the town commons.
Yeah, we're discussing the a plan for First Street, some redevelopment down there, bring businesses out on First Street, as well as the first phase of town commons. And what's going to be, I think, brought to us tonight is what that first phase is going to look like, and that's where we're going to go. So we're planning on going forward with the first phase of town commons, and I think the whole issue is, and now the city council took a vote on $150,000 that really didn't need to be done at this moment, and came back with trash cans, park benches, a walkway that's probably gonna have to be dug up, and
Fishing pier.
A fishing pier.
Okay, well, let's talk about the $150,000. Let's go back in history a little bit. We raised taxes back in July. I forgot the July, I think it was. Mm-hmm. We raised taxes, and one of the things in those discussions that we had was there was $150,000 set aside in the budget. So people listening, we had to raise your taxes to cover this $150,000 that they're spending now. This isn't future money. This was set aside. Well, it is. I mean, it was set aside in the budget. But we couldn't meet our budget, so we had to raise taxes to do that.
So they said. So we had $150,000 set aside just sitting there so we can buy park benches. So your raised taxes that we just did are paying for the benches and paying for the trash cans. And I agree with what you said. We've got a plan that we want to work on and putting some money to it and asking for the public to do a bond vote. How come they couldn't have taken that $150,000 and said, look, because we've got so much going on there, we're trying to wait for this plan, we need to probably update the plan. Let's not spend a lot of money actually on the park itself, but
let's just go down here to the water and do the pier and the boat ramp, spend the money there, because that's something that's probably not going to change. That way we can kind of do an update. But I just feel like spending this money is just, you said it, the walkway. There's a really good chance that walkway is going to be ripped up.
Well, I have a question, Dennis. Go back a minute. When was the $150,000 set aside?
It's set aside in the budget. And anytime
At what year?
This year.
This year.
This year.
When they passed this year. And anytime
Okay.
that money is set aside like that, out of nowhere, there was some pressure from some members of
That's
council
right.
to put that in there. So I guess that's something they want to hang their head on, to be saying, we finally did something in Town Commons. $150,000 towards
But
a
if
$13
you
million
can't
plan.
even break even and you have to do a tax increase, and it's got to be irritating to the public, because it's very irritating to me as a taxpayer. I've got to pay extra taxes for money that you've got set aside that you don't even know what you're going to do with.
But, I mean, you brought it up now. I mean, the ideal of why not do the fishing pier and the boat ramp. If you listen, we just had, right before they discussed what they were going to do with the $150,000, the consultants came back with this wonderful, amazing
Right.
Tar River Legacy Plan.
That's right.
And their thing was, if you're going to do something, start now to do the fishing pier and the boat ramp.
See, I didn't know that.
The,
saying that,
the
so-
consultants just told them that right
And
before
then
they took
the
the
next
vote.
moment they
And then
vote.
the next moment they ignored that and did the trash cans and park benches. And what Parks and Recs was given, they were given a list the commission was given a list of about 20 items. And they were saying, pick 8 items. So what they did is pick the 8 items that can come up to $150,000 and submit it to city council.
And
Well,
$50,000 was that.
$150,000 is not a lot of money anyway.
It's not a lot.
It's a lot when
But
you're sitting there. It's a
$150,000 would
lot
do
of
a
money,
nice-
but it won't do but so much.
It would do a nice pier and a nice boat ramp.
But, and also you go back, there's a lot of different ways you can go from this. One issue is that, I mean, Councilwoman Candy Smith and Rose Glover is like, if you're going to do something down there, put a little bit more extra money in that we know we got all these
We
funds.
have extra money.
Put in extra money and do something that's going to have an impact. You know, because the ideal is to bring people down to Town Commons.
Right.
I
You
mean,
mean trash cans aren't going to do that, Dennis?
no, I mean, no.
Well, I took my grandchildren down there one day to ride their bikes and to walk around, and there was no place for us to sit. I have to say there were no picnic
then
tables.
we got the
there were no
benches.
picnic tables though, but benches you can't sit and eat it on a bench. And I
But-
asked for picnic tables, we never got
But
those.
I think one of the things that's been glossed over here, and this is my main issue with them,
Right.
is anytime before you go towards doing a project, a major project like this, the first thing you got to do is design the project.
Right.
We haven't even designed. We don't even have the construction documents, the design.
We just
the
have a
documents.
master
We don't have
plan
the design of
that
the
needs
town
to-
commons.
right.
So you're about to go put some things down there, and you haven't even designed out your park. It might call for you need to do some grading, some leveling. You might have to move sewer lines, all kind of stuff that you
That's
haven't even
right.
got into yet. And then environmental factors, you know, with it being on the river.
Oh, yeah.
Like we were talking about earlier, the fact that the old amphitheater is built in the middle of the floodplain. So all these things, factors going on. Why not use that $150,000 on designing the entire park and coming out with phase plans to present to the council and say, now here's the first phase. How are we going to fund this first phase, second phase,
Well,
third phase? Why not do it like that?
I think too with the master plan, there has been discussion about a public-private partnership, that whole 23 acres not be used totally for a park, because 23-acre park isn't going to be a drawing card enough to go to the town common for the money that it's going to cost.
And we have those discussions
So-
on the bond committee too. as
That's
well.
right. We have discussed that. Well, I think that's what it all comes around full circle to me, is that they've just jumped the gun again instead of waiting for us to
They've had to have known what we've been
present.
discussing,
Of course
'cause
they
there's
do.
been council members
Council
that have
members
sat in
have
the
been
meeting.
there. Wait, let's see what the bond committee comes up with. What kind of funds are they talking about? What are they suggesting that is done with I believe it's $3.5 million for First Street and Town Common that we had been discussing in the bond. And so it's just, again, they've jumped the gun. I don't understand it.
What you preach and what you actually do are two different things. We hear
Right.
from this council is all about long-term planning and processes.
And fiscal
And
responsibility.
fiscal responsibility. I
And
mean,
there isn't any.
This was no fiscal responsibility and had no planning. We're just going to willy-nilly just spend something on town commons to go out there and tell people we
Now,
did something.
on the other side of things, you hope that we can reuse the trash receptacles. You hope that we can reuse the park benches. I do have a lot of issue with putting a sidewalk in without a plan. Again, I just feel like you take it, you put it in an area that people have been asking for the boat ramp and this fishing pier to be fixed. Let's just put that money there. Let's make that right. And you just said, I didn't know this, but the Tar River Legacy man said, hey, you need to do this first.
Right.
They just
That
said
should've been done.
these are two things that are going to have the low impact, low hanging fruit. They're going to have the most bang for the buck. It's fixing that fishing pier and fixing that boat and dock. Those are two things that and they just told them that, and they completely ignored it, and they went the other side. But you talk about you can move the trash cans and the park bench, but that's part of the design plan.
Right.
You got to set aside, okay, this is our elements. These are the elements. These are the type of materials we're going to use. You want we're about to spend $13 million on this plan. We want everything to look right and look uniformity, but you haven't even done that yet. So, I mean, you might put this type of trash can out there and it don't even match the rest of the design plan of everything else.
Well, I think what happens to me when they make these kind of decisions like they did, you just question what other types of decisions are they going to make or can they make that don't make sense when it comes to spending all the money.
I'm very fearful of the planning session. You know,
oh my gosh!
Because we know now they're going to have a surplus, so there's going to be extra money to spend.
But now, is there concern about the audit or anything going on?
Will the audit be finished before the
No, because
session?
we heard at the last city council the audit is on hold.
Okay.
Now,
I don't think the public really knows that. Why don't you update us on that?
They said the audit is on hold because apparently there was some incorrect information put into one of the booklets. The city council every year puts together their big financial plan booklet. So there was some incorrect information put into those booklets. So the audit is on hold until the auditor has a chance to go in and pretty much, from my understanding, redo the audit.
So I read something about that in the paper. They put 2011 figures in. It was
2012,
supposed to be
I think,
2012 or something
Yeah, they
like
mixed
that.
the figures up.
How did that happen? How does something like that happen
well,
on
the way-
something that's so important?
The way
so much emphasis is put on?
it's being put out there is that it's a minor clerical issue that the auditors had the actual real numbers.
Okay.
It's just what was put together in the booklet was wrong.
Okay.
But at that booklet, what goes in front of that booklet is your auditor letter saying,
That it's right.
that everything in here is right. So that's probably what's caused concern for the auditors. So now they just want to make sure, they're dotting all their T's. I mean, they're dotting their I's and crossing all their T's. So, I mean, their reputation is upheld.
So let me just say this again. So the completed audit will not be done when the council goes into planning session.
Well, hopefully it will.
Yeah, but we don't know.
But we don't know.
We
It's
don't
not done
know.
now.
Well-
It was supposed to be presented on Monday night, and it was not.
Well, I want to talk about something else. It came up in the bond discussion. I said this morning to Henry that we have gone into depth studying these issues for the last several months on the committee, all of us, 14 of us. And we've had a lot of presentations, and one of them that we went into in-depth discussion was about putting a bridge. And there was discussion about that with the Tar River Legacy Plan. They had bridge talk in there, but they had not gone, it wasn't their job to go deep enough to see if a bridge is even able to be put in. And so we found out in our discussions that would not be feasible probably. It would cost millions and millions of dollars because the other side of the river is wetlands and it's just not going to happen, not in that position.
It's several hundred yards of wetlands.
Right, anyway. And so this is another item, though, is why the discussion is put together with the city council before we've had an opportunity to present everything to them and them to know all of the items that we have discussed and talked about. It's just
I feel
another
like
one
they
of
could
those
have waited
things.
a month.
That's right. A month wouldn't have
Especially
mattered.
since tonight technically is supposed to be our last bond meeting.
Right.
Seeing what we propose.
Exactly.
Putting pressure on them to repeal that 1 cent tax that they
Exactly.
should have never done. I'm still beefed about the $150,000 and raising my taxes to begin with.
I mean, I guess it was unnecessary. I mean, if that $150,000 was used to do something that make people to draw more people to that park, I'd have been okay with it. But it was just
It's
like
really not.
I think one of the council members saying, "Well, we're just going to spend $150,000. I mean, we have it. We're just going to spend it." But it made absolutely no sense to me. I'm adamant.
It sounds like they went for the quantity of the items
That's what it was
and not
like.
the quality of the items.
Exactly. I mean, I would prefer for them to wait until they had enough money to put the bathrooms up there. At least that. I mean, at least you have something tangible that, I mean.
But where are they
it's
going to
of
put those,
benefit.
Dennis, that they
But you
won't
can't
have
do
to be
that without a
moved?
plan.
That's the problem. There's no
Exactly.
Or you
plan.
take that money and go ahead and spend it and get the plan updated.
And that's where I would have stood at. I mean,
Right.
let's do this. Let's do the design portion. Let's follow project management 101.
Right.
You got your conceptual plan, you got your scope. Now the next step is to move into our construction documents and our design plan. Once you do that, you legitimately know where things are going to be at, how much they're going to cost, if there are any risks, like are there any unknown sewer issues going
Right.
on down there? We know the Town Creek Culvert goes all throughout there. You know all those unknowns, and that way you
Exactly.
can really plan and manage things.
Well, even putting in the new pier and boat ramp, when we discussed things
That
on
pier's
the,
probably going, and I know I'm saying it before we've even seen it. That thing's probably going to be about 15 feet long and 3 feet wide.
well, I don't know, but what I
mean-
was going to say was, in the original Town Common Master Plan that we worked on, there was discussion, and I can't remember it, it's been a while, about some repairs and some issues that had to be handled with the wall. And it comes around, right where the boat dock. I mean, you could still spend this money, $150,000 on a pier and a boat ramp, and it have to be changed. There was a talk about it. So there's just so many unknowns.
There was also a talk about losing the wall and having it step down into the river, kind of like that. So I mean, there was a lot of
different discussions.
So you haven't even talked about the design process. Like, what elements are you going to actually have in that? I was even worried about the pier and the boat ramp because who said they're going to be right where they're going to be at? And
they've been underwater lately.
But you're going to have a $13 million plan and you're about to put a cheap little floating, like you said.
Well, that's my fear.
And
I know it's probably more than 15 by 3, but
this is supposed to be like we're going to do this town commons park. This is going to be the cream of the crop,
right.
you know.
It's, my fear is it's going to look like something down at Port Terminal.
And
that's my fear.
And that's what I do not want.
That's right.
And nothing against Port Terminal, but it's a boat ramp off to the side that some people use. This is going to be the centerpiece of our city. You want it to be impressive. I know a little bit about the marine business. We've been in it my whole life. You can't do it for $45,000 or whatever it's saying. You just can't.
That's right.
Where do you want to go with it now, Terry?
Well, I want to discuss a little bit more because I didn't get to say very much about economic development in our bond discussion, but we have been talking about that. To me, that's what it's all about anyway. Whatever we do with the roads, whatever we do with the town common and First Street, whatever we do with a sports complex or whatever discussion else is out there, to me is all going to come back to helping economic development. And so that's why I'm just not seeing them jumping the gun again on the 150. I'm not seeing how that's going to produce anything except appease people who are using it. There are some people who use it. It's not a great amount of our population, and I know that they're frustrated with it, but that's what I feel like that they did. They tried to appease that small group of people instead of looking at the big picture.
Well, my fear is we're going to present a bond, which most of the bond itself is going to be roads. And South Greenville Recreational Complex has been a big discussion on that.
Yes, it
But my
has.
fear is they don't have to follow our recommendations. They've not followed any other recommendations given to them.
No, but they'd be crazy not to because they have not done their homework.
We're self-appointed.
We've done the
them.
homework.
We've spent 10 meetings? I don't even know how many.
At least.
All of us talking, and what it seems to be is there's actually a general agreement among the people on that bond committee that all come from different walks of life, all
right.
come from different backgrounds.
All different
But there's a general
jobs.
consensus that say, you know what, we think this would be good. If they don't take our recommendations, that's just crazy.
I mean, it'd be crazy because that was one of the reasons that Councilman Calvin Mercer agreed with the 8 things. He said, well, the Parks and Recreation Committee recommended, so I don't necessarily agree with all these things, but I'm going to go with them. So we'll see what they do. But I want to mention something. Of course, we're having a discussion on my Facebook page about the 150. We know about my Facebook page. And somebody said this, which was a perfect analogy. She said, so y'all buying the furniture before y'all built the house?
Yeah.
And that's exactly
What's wrong with that?
exactly.
we're buying the furniture for Town Commons before we even built what Town Commons is going to look like.
That's
It makes
right.
no sense.
The only
It
time I do
doesn't.
that is in a blowout sale that I could get it for about a third the price, but I don't think that's
Well,
the
you're
issue
about to
here.
get 4 trash cans for about $5,000.
Don't tell me that.
was set
Oh,
aside.
let's
Don't
hope
tell me
not.
that.
Let's
But don't
hope
forget,
not.
well, you know what? A lot of
No, that's what it
I know
price
that we
was
talk about
for.
reusing some of the stuff, but there's something else. These benches and these trash cans generally are not just freestanding. They're mounted. They're sat in the ground. They're expensive to
have to be.
install. And there is going to be a cost associated with doing that is going to end up having to be ripped back out.
I'm just worried because, I mean, you remember when they had a discussion about a bathroom, they showed 2 bathrooms. They showed a bathroom at Dream Park, which fits the Dream Park because it's by the spray ground.
That's right.
And then they showed a bathroom that was befitting of what Town Commons should look like. It was very nice. And I'm worried that we're going the cheapy route because if you even talked about the park benches and the picnic tables they were talking about, they were these vinyl covered picnic tables. We're spending $13 million on the plan and we're putting cheapy stuff out there
Right.
just to do it. It makes no sense at all.
Well, I think another item we probably should just cover, just so the public will know, when the 2004 bond was passed, a proposed tax increase was put out there with that bond as well, which was not used. It was not needed. They were able to pay back without increasing the taxes. We're certainly
they stayed
hoping
revenue neutral.
with the overages we have in all these funds, maybe that will happen with this time. But when the bond comes out to be voted on, it's put on the ballot, and we will suggest it for the November 2015. Because someone asked me today, was it going to be as early as May? We won't be ready in May. If I understand, we need all this time to have it ready for the ballot in November.
We're almost at D-Day.
Right,
It's
that's
November
right.
now. We got a year.
That's
so
right. It's
pretty much
gonna
we have
take
to give
that-
it to the council,
that long.
and then they got to get with
Well,
it.
they've got to have
There's a
several months
lengthy
of
process to
advocacy
go.
work
So then the items that we recommend will be divided on that bond. It won't be like all in one bond. So you'll be able to vote one, vote for the second, vote for three, vote for none. So it will at that point be up to the public to pass it. So the public doesn't, at this point, I think there's been some fear put out there that this bond's going to get passed and no one's going to know what's going on. But it'll be very clear. And then, of course, they'll have the advocacy group put together. I can't hardly say that word.
Advocacy.
Thank you.
Say it after me.
No.
Advocacy.
You say it.
But Terry, you brought up,
And-
you brought up a huge point about it's only a potential for a tax increase.
That's
One thing
right.
that we have not talked about in the bond commission, and remind me not because I keep on forgetting to bring it up,
Right.
is that our city grows on average 2% every year.
Right.
And that's just a rule of thumb. And I think we're going to probably see us grow a little bit higher than that.
Well, as the economy turns out, we should.
We should
Right.
grow a little higher than that. So it's a possibility, like you said, that it may not be no tax increase at all.
That's right. So that does need to be, and plus, we will definitely, we will want the reallocation of that last tax increase.
Well, my biggest disappointment, I would say, and it's not disappointing with the people on the bond committee, but probably disappointment is we're spending so much of this money on really repairs and maintenance.
Absolutely.
I would like to see, I've been a big advocate of the medical tech park, something that
Right.
it might take 10, 15, 20 years to fill out, but the jobs that area can bring are big jobs for this area. They're
right.
the Patheon type jobs, $70,000, $80,000 a year jobs.
And we need
That's
that.
how you build a tax base.
That's right.
We can ask for all the retail stores in this town we want. Yes, they're going to bring in jobs, but they're bringing in minimum paying jobs.
That's right.
We need to be investing in the infrastructure to bring real jobs here that can buy homes, that can build a tax base. We're 65% rental in this town. We've got
right.
a very high rental rate versus probably what most other cities
And
are.
you're gonna have
And granted, we have a
that,
college that
right.
causes that. But the more $10 hour jobs you have, the more rentals you're going to have because they cannot afford to invest in homes.
Well, the more low-paying retail you have, the more rentals you're going to have because that people cannot afford to buy the homes.
Well, we do have to take our second commercial break. We're going to take
Great.
the next 2 minutes. You can take a break from us, and we'll be back to finish this show.
Welcome back to the Greenville Grit. Of course, we're in the last portion of our show. We've been having a lively discussion about the $150,000 expenditure by the City Council and the Bond Committee. But now let's talk about what's the future, what's coming up. We have a City Council meeting on Thursday night.
That's right.
One issue that, of course, is key to me is South Greenville Gym.
That's right.
They're going to talk about that. The school system's going to tell them what they're going to be willing to pay, which we all know was a newspaper, about $600,000. I'm going to have some people there to show that we are advocating and supporting to go forth with South Greenville Gym. And I also know they have the naming of the parking garage. Anybody know any other thing else? I think
know
it's pretty
anything
much
about that.
a short agenda
The
because
name of the parking garage. What kind of name are we talking about here?
from what I understand, it's just going to be called 4th Street Parking Garage.
So it's
Oh,
not
they're
the
just-
Calvin Mercer parking
No,
garage?
not the council versus. I'm an advocate for the joiner deck.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for Max, then that parking garage
You're
would be
right.
built. They've been saving that money, and Max was like, "No, we need to pull the trigger on it," and we pulled the trigger on it.
What are they doing? The redevelopment commission owned the lot that was still on Evans with the pretty fence. The art students, I noticed this week it's been leveled and cleaned up. And has any plans for that right
As
now?
far as I know, right now, it's just going to be open space.
Okay,
I don't
just to
think they
walk through.
allocated. Another issue that we didn't talk about is the possibility of redevelopment of the theater.
Oh yeah,
for Community
lots
Smith.
of discussion
That's
about that.
probably a good idea.
Yeah, I actually applaud the Magnolia Arts for pulling out of that. I think Community Smith, with what those guys have already done on the Super Block, they have their mess together. So I hope that that's something that the city, I don't know what your opinion is on that.
No,
but-
I actually think it's a good idea. Of course, I hate the ideal of a giveaway because the city will pretty much deed the property to them.
Well, so
but
either the
I
city
mean,
give it away or
the
continue to
impact.
sit there and fall.
Yeah, and the impact of the tax revenue come back
That's
in.
right.
So it's probably be a good deal for the city. So although
It's a give up now, but it's a gain later.
It is stormy and cloudy in Greenville. I mean, the sun's still shining because Greenville wants to grow. Greenville wants to get better, and I think we're still on the right path.
They just got to make sure when you do a deal like that you do the deal with the caveat that they have a certain amount of time to make sure that they actually do start doing the work and not talk about it. And I've seen a lot of things in the past where developers have promised to do things and they end up not doing them.
Right.
So
Well, we were adamant when we put in our economic development package in place that we do have those in place, like the TAP project. They pretty much they only get the tax credits for like 7 years before we
Right.
start getting our return on it.
Well, and I believe,
there are a lot of
and I
caveats.
have heard a rumor that there is definitely going to be a hotel downtown. So
Yep,
hopefully
we're hearing
that
a
will
lot of
happen.
talk about that.
I
When is
know the Bank of America building is under contract.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
Heard the
heard
Bank
that
of
too.
America's under
There is a
contract.
lot going on down there.
And
I
again-
guess the parking garage is on schedule to open in December.
Yes, it is.
Well, we're going to need it. I was there this week, and we
It's
couldn't
getting
find
pretty
a
tough to
parking
park down there,
space.
and even on the
And the
weekends and
line
stuff.
was out the door at the Scullery to get in for lunch. It was amazing. It was wonderful.
Well, that's
But-
good to see. I know a lot of people say, well, the Greenville's got so much other area. Why do you always talk about uptown? Well, it goes back, Dennis, you mentioned in the last couple of shows, the tax value per acre in our uptown district is $1 million an acre.
That's right.
The tax
$1 million
value in
and
the rest
growing.
of the county is 50-some thousand an acre. So it is 20 times difference, which is one of the reasons we've got to have that vibrant uptown.
Real quick, if anybody's interested, the Chamber's having their power luncheon on November 18th from noon to 1 at the Hilton, and Carl Reese and Bianca will be talking about citywide economic development.
Okay,
If
what
anybody
date is
wants
that
to come,
again?
November 18th.
November 18th.
Yep,
November
it's next
18th.
Tuesday.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap our show up. Thank you so much for joining in. Before we go, we always have to thank the sponsors again. Thank you to Ribeye Steakhouse. Mention Greenville Grit. You get a little present. Kid Construction Group at kcgbuildgreen.com, Greenville Toyota, and the Overton Group. You can visit us also at 6:30 Friday night, 9 o'clock Saturday morning, 9:30 Saturday morning on Cable 7, or type up YouTube at Greenville Grit. Until next time,
Go Pirates!
yes, sir.